Well, and it connects to for me, it connects a lot with then what I do to connect with other people and selling and the rest, because if I really trust, if I sit back in my trust of myself and my business and my process and the things, what that means is when I go to network or connect or whatever, I'm going to show up and trust whatever falls out. I'm not gonna stress about what questions I need to ask them. I'm not gonna stress about the conversation. I'm not gonna like, will I make sure I talk about what I do and what they do and all that? Of course. But I trust that I know how to do that because I've done it 1,000 times. Like, I'm not gonna over engineer.
Hi, I'm Pam Pryor, and this is the Cash Flow Podcast, where we talk about everything money related in your business. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Hey, welcome back, Cash Flow friends, to our Know Your Map segment. If you remember, here's where we really celebrate the power of relationships in shaping our businesses and all of the successes that we have, how we celebrate them, who we celebrate them with, learning from our failures. So this is from mentors to strange encounters of the oddest kind. But these are the connections basically that are more than just like a support system, but they're really critical, quite frankly, for managing your cash flow, which is why we tie it in here. Because without these relationships, your business wouldn't be going where it's going. So let's dive in to these relationships again in this podcast with my dear friend and coach, and someone I've wanted to have on this episode for a while. And I'm really excited to have Sara Torpey here. So could do a little intro and then let Sara tell us a little bit about how she got to where she is. But she is a business coach with 20 years of experience working with business owners and educators. This is a cool component of Sara's resume, is that a lot of us are teachers and coaches, and Sara has lived her life in education and pedagogy. So at Torpey Coaching, she works with business owners one-on-one or in small groups. And she has a course called, I love the title, Selling for Weirdos, to create thriving, profitable businesses through, and here's the key, simplicity. Smart systems, leveraging everything that's already working to create more growth with simplicity. And I will tell you, this woman can cut through anything you think is already simple and simplify it even more. She's a multiple business owner, a teacher, a mom, and a wife. So she has to know how to simplify things. And she knows what it's like to wear all the hats and still build an amazing business that you love all at the same time. And her mission is to help teachers, helpers, coaches, and other givers of the world have the same thing. So, Sara, welcome. And how did you wind up in this crazy gig of ours?
Hi. First, thank you. This is such a treat for me. Like, so fun. One of my very favorite people in the world, you, Pam Pryor. Um, how it's funny. It's like,
How? How
how
did I
how
do
did I
this?
get here? It's funny. I feel like, so I think the beginning idea is that I think coaching is the best and most effective version of teaching I have ever been a part of. Like, coaching is the highest form of teaching, I think,
I love that.
because it's when and I think people hear teaching and they think telling, and that's not
Yes.
what coaching is. Coaching is teaching where you're elbow to elbow, knee to knee, side by side, working together, right? Coaching is facilitation. It's all of the best parts of teaching without having a principal. And not that I
I
didn't love my
without the
principals,
admin.
but I didn't like having rules. That I'm not super good at that. So business has been a really good place for me.
I think this is why I love you, because you don't like the rules. You
I
make your own
don't.
rules and they make more sense.
Well, but also, like, I've never had an actual job, even within the systems where I did it the way everybody else did. I didn't realize that in the moment. But all these years later, like, I can't tell you how many of my own job titles I've made over the years where it's like, this is what I'm going to be now. And they'll be like, okay.
Okay.
And they just kind of, I don't know, people, I was lucky enough to run into people that would just look at me and go, like, man, do you? And
I
so off
love
I
it.
would
That's a
go.
great system to be in. When did you start this business?
This business somewhere, the coaching business somewhere, like the later half of 2018, mid 2019, somewhere in there. And
Okay.
then it really started to go end of 2019. And then, 2020, like
Right smack into
build a business.
2020.
Let's have a kindergartner and a second grader and build a business. Let's do that together. That was fun. That was great. Let's do
I'll
that
bet
again.
though, did a lot of your principles that you use now and a lot of those the thing I love, one of the things Sarah does on a regular basis, if you don't follow her on Facebook, you should, is she'll do these very easy to comprehend graphics on her whiteboard or her pad of paper back there behind her. Did
Yep.
a lot of that come from having to survive COVID with a business and kids at home? Or
I
did you already
probably
have a lot of that?
I was I'm pretty ruthless with my own stuff to begin with, only because I think, I've always lived a life with parts. We all do. Like, I think before I ran this business, I've always been somebody. Like, I'm only recently not somebody that doesn't have 3 jobs. Like, I always taught on the side still and, consulted for this, and then I have kids, and my husband travels, and my kids play travel sports, and I have dogs, and I have, like, so there's always been, all of the parts to manage, and
I
sometimes I
love
had
that.
more part jobs. I was a collector for a little while. So I'm pretty like, this is what's in this bucket, this is what's in this bucket, this is what's in this bucket, and we gotta do because I don't have time for the rest. Like, and then you
I've
get pretty
actually tagged
ruthless.
that to the footnotes here because we all live a life with parts is a great point. And
Yes.
you help a lot of people see that and think, "Oh, well, I have to compartmentalize." What you do is integrate. And that's what I
Yes.
really, really like about your process. And you integrate in the simplest of ways with your diagrams. Truly, folks, if you've not followed Sarah and looked at some of these diagrams, go back and look for the whiteboards. If you're ever stuck, if you're ever getting in your own way, hello, who hasn't done that? Um, I always, when I find myself having a day like that, will go find Sarah's feed and just look through to the next whiteboard. And it's always got a message that I need to see that day. And if it doesn't, I go to the next one. But there's always one within three, Sarah, to be honest with you,
That's
that kind
cool.
of gets me out of my stuck spot.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
I do want to go back to like when you started your very first business and even maybe as you started your coaching business, but kind of the start of that entrepreneurial journey, who is kind of the very first person on your mind map of relationships that kind of impacted your trajectory and kind of that moment when you said, "Hey, this relationship really changed my direction." The fact that whether it was a surprise relationship or something somebody casually said or a family member, who was that?
Um, it is one of my dearest friends from high school. She has been a business owner for, well, her youngest is gonna be 14 this summer, and she started her first business when he was a 10-week-old baby sitting on my
Oh my
couch.
gosh. Okay.
Like, we talked about that the business she has run for many years, sitting in my house when he was a newborn kind of thing, um,
So this was before your kids.
before my kids. So we joke I'm her first board member and only board member, right? Like, we are that. And she and I have always talked about these kinds of things and ideas and that kind of stuff, but also she's always one that will be like, "Well, but okay, so I'm gonna do this, you're gonna do that." Like, we have a current deal running where she applied for a grant for something, and I promised I would work on the Etsy store I've been secretly planning.
Oh,
Like,
cool. So you challenge each other, not
yes,
challenge.
where we, like, make these ridiculous, like, wheeling and dealing things. But my coaching business, honestly, partly, like, she gets credit because as I was running my first business, people ask for help, right? What do you do when you're not sure? You ask somebody you think has got it. And people were asking for help and people were asking for help. And she finally was like, "Hey, yo, um, that's a coaching practice. Could you just shut up and finally start the coaching practice for a change of pace?" And I was like, "Oh." Because, I coached teachers in classrooms and then went and did something else. I coached
Okay.
salespeople in other roles and then went and did something else. And she was like, "When are you gonna get it?" Basically, like, "Hello,
I
get
see this
yourself
so clearly.
together."
Why don't you? Yep.
Well, and, like, she advocates, she's like, "This should have been the first business," but I wasn't ready then, I had to make all the mistakes
Exactly.
first, right?
Mhm.
I had to do all the other things, and then, but it was one of those where I was like, "Oh, okay, yep,
Yeah.
yep, okay,"
That
and
is perfect. I
we
love it
all
that you
need
kind of
that shove.
and it sounds like that relationship is state key
Oh,
in
yeah.
that you continue to hold each other accountable to not being complacent or that's the wrong word, but not just standing still.
Yep, for sure. Well, and we push each other differently. I tell her, "Of course it's gonna work, and maybe we could do it in fewer steps, and how about
Of
you just stop."
course.
Like, I constantly am like, "Okay, well, but how about you just stop sitting on it and do the thing? Like, you know what you need to do, why aren't you doing it?" And
God, that's
she
such a
comes back
disease
with,
for us
like,
all, isn't it?
yes, and she comes back with much of the same thing, but also the, like, why are you just holding why aren't you selling that? Or, like, why
Mhm.
is that not like a like, what people would buy that, she says to me all the time. I'm like,
I
"Well,
love
alright,
that.
fine."
We all
But
need our coaches and our accountability partners. Even the best of coaches need coaches because we can see our own stuff. But I think especially as coaches, sometimes we get so caught up in helping everybody else that we make it an excuse to not hold ourselves to the same stuff we know.
it is that. It's also really hard, I think, to take advice you give regularly because you stop hearing it. And
Oh,
the other thing I think is really hard, part of the reason I am always grateful for my coach is because if it is it's easy to see our own stuff if we've seen it before.
got
But if
it.
it's not something we've met quite in that way before, we don't recognize it, right? It's
We
like
don't see
meeting
the
somebody,
pattern.
like when you go to the store and you meet somebody you work with and they're so out of context you don't recognize them.
Yep, yep,
And you're
yep.
like,
That makes a
"Oh,
great
oh,
oh, what a
oh."
great point.
But when you've not seen it quite that way, you need somebody else to be like, "Dude, that's the same."
I
And then you're
love
like,
that. It's the
"Oh,
patterns. It's
yes."
seeing our own patterns that's so hard, especially since they were literally bred into us before we were 7. So
Right,
it's
and
hard
then you
to
can't.
challenge it or see it differently. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. Well, now this may have the same answer, but we know that in entrepreneurship we hit ups and downs. Like it is not rainbows and unicorns, as they say. And sometime in your journey, I'm guessing you've been in a tight spot. Um, During that time, has there been someone who's kind of bailed you out? And by bailed you out, I don't mean they've saved you, but who kind of sat in the foxhole with you and helped you some way deal with that sort of disaster time?
I think there are 2, and I am not a disaster girl. I
Yeah,
am
I love
a,
that.
I am, like, annoyingly, it's always gonna get figured out. Like,
I
even
love
when I
that.
don't know what it's gonna get figured out, like, it's gonna even though, like, because at least
I
in the
think we
business
share
and
that.
yes, in the business in particular, the other thing I think that really serves me in the business, and I'll come back to the question, is, like, I have this deep-seated, "Oh, no, this is going to work." Like, it is this very, like, there might be 1,000
It's
ways to
not
do it.
an
I'll go
option.
ahead. No.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not there's no person that's gonna tell me no, that you
I
can't do
love
this.
that.
Like, the hell? People sell there is a guy in my neighborhood who sells garbage can washing. If he can sell that, I can do whatever the hell I want. Thank you
First of all,
very
that's
much.
freaking brilliant.
Right? But,
Hello.
like, that's an entire business, and I'm not allowed to do this. Like,
That is
because I'm nuts.
brilliant.
But so I think the first is, there came a point there are always points, but there came a point in 2021 where I was like, "Okay, I know what I'm doing, but I don't know how to do what's next," or at least I felt like that.
Uh,
And I needed somebody to basically, like, sit on me. So I called a friend who I knew would be from experience, who's a coach, who I was like, "Listen, what I need you to do is to sit on me, and whatever crap I bring you, I need you to very directly steer me right back." And that's what she and I do to this day, is, like, I'll be like, "But what about this?" And she'll be like, "What even is that?" Like,
huh. I love
because
that.
I think what she and I have really worked on diligently and to a huge benefit is trust. Like my trust in myself, my trust in my business, my trust in my people, my trust in my process. And that is everything, every
Wow.
single thing. Because
Wow.
if you
It's a
have that,
knowing almost.
yes, and that's I if I write it in my notebook, that knowing has a capital K because I think it's
I
different.
love that. I'm actually writing that in my notebook right now because that covers so many bases. And
Mhm.
we don't ever, I don't think we ever forget our knowing, but I think we layer so much crap over it that sometimes we don't feel it or
Well,
I
we
don't know how to
don't
explain it.
trust it.
Yeah, maybe
We're
that's it.
taught that, like, we know, but we don't know best,
Mhm.
right? Especially women, I think,
Yep.
in the business world. And so, like, my so much of my work in the last 2 years really has been, I'm gonna choose to trust this. I'm gonna trust the right people are coming. I'm gonna trust that the people I work with are grown-ups and can make the right decisions for them. I'm gonna trust my prices. I'm gonna trust my ideas. I'm gonna trust all of it. And I'm gonna trust I can be as loud as I want and people are gonna like it. And if they don't like it, they're gonna move on. Like, I'm gonna trust all of it, even if I called it selling for weirdos. And sometimes people are like, what is wrong with you? I,
Mhm.
I'm gonna trust that this is the thing that the people that I want to serve, that want to be served by me, are gonna hear.
Oh my god, I really wanna unpack that because I know myself. I'll go through times where I'm like, "Oh, maybe I should do this differently. Maybe I was too gentle. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I was who knows what the thing is, right?" But literally words I need to hear today on a big decision I need to make.
Hmm.
And the answer is trust what you know. Trust your knowing. And until we had this conversation, I blew right by that. So if you, when you listen to this, folks, I really challenge you to hear what Sarah just said because that is it. That's the answer. If you have a knowing about what you're doing, which almost all of us do if we're, actually gone off the grid and started these businesses. We
Well, and
have
it's
a
not
knowing
even
that
an
we know.
almost because you didn't go without it. Like,
Right.
there's no, you didn't go like, I am gonna sell baskets made of
Maybe.
ivy this week. Like, there's
Maybe.
no one,
Right.
it's just not, that's not how we do. It's
Yeah.
not people. It's
And it's not. And I love actually your story about the guy who cleans garbage cans. He knows people need the garbage cans cleaned. And those of
yep,
us who didn't even know such a thing existed, if we find out about it, which we now have, I'm going to find out why he doesn't open a branch in Yardley. Like,
right?
he knows that's a need. You know what you do and how you do it is helpful to people and it makes a business. And I think we do get separated from that. And it is trust. It's building
Yes.
a very strong core of trust from wherever you are to that anchor. I love that. Oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Well, and it connects to, for me, it connects a lot with then what I do to connect with other people
Hmm.
and selling and the rest. Because if I really trust, if I sit back in my trust of myself and my business and my process and the things, what that means is when I go to network or connect or whatever, I'm going to show up and trust whatever falls out. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna stress about what questions I need to ask them. I'm not gonna stress about the conversation. I'm not gonna like, will I make sure I talk about what I do and what they do and all that? Of course. But I
Hmm.
trust that I know how to do that because I've
Yeah.
done it 1,000 times. Like, I'm not gonna over engineer
Yep.
connecting to another human because I don't need to, because I trust I know how to do that.
Oh
And
my
so
God. And
much
I love,
business is built through that, right?
yeah. And the thing that I really like about that I hope people heard, so I'm going to circle back to it, is I kind of don't do disaster because with that knowing and with that trust, there isn't disaster. There's, okay, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. These are exactly the people I'm supposed to be attracting. And it's when we start to twist ourselves up to be that different thing
Yes.
that things go off the rails. And a lot of times when we're in sort of a stressful period, we might tend to do that instead of remember, oh no, I'm just going to trust the knowing. This is what I'm
Well,
supposed to be
and
doing.
one of the best things I think I've heard from somebody is, years ago somebody said to me, like, if you had to burn it down, if it exploded into like poof, right? Like, if it went as wrong could be, and and you had to start over, where would you end up? And the answer is exactly where I am now because this is what I know. This is what I'm good
Mhm.
at. This is what I'm best at. Would it have the same name on it? Maybe not, but would I be doing exactly the same thing all day long? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Because it's your knowing.
Because this is where I'm meant to be.
I
Like,
love
and I'll
that.
say to clients, "Okay, if we blew it up, where would you end up?" And they'll be like, "Oh, you know what? Probably right here." Like, "Well, okay then. Then, like, let's calm down because
Yeah.
we're gonna always find our way back to the center
Yeah, and we're
if we
not
listen."
blowing it up right now, we're just dealing with a little bit of a question.
Well, then, like, okay, so the worst thing happens.
I
Great.
love that because
Then
staying out
what?
of disaster mode is so key because the minute you I don't know, the minute and I'm guessing most people who
Yeah,
listen here, the minute I start to think or doubt or any of those things, it is like a snowball going down a hill. So if you don't recognize that signal when you're still at the top of the hill and go, wait a minute, I love what I'm doing. I'm blessed with A, B, C, D, E, and F. And it is amazing how quickly gratitude can turn around a bad day. And I know it sounds trite,
it's
but
not. But you know what? And actually, I would add to that that I think the most important practice in business that I teach people constantly is to sit down once a week, every day. I do it almost every day, and it's what's working right now. It's
I
not actually
love
what am I
that.
grateful for, it's what's working right now, because what we do is train our brains to know that something's always working,
That is
right?
brilliant.
And when we know something's always working, it's really harder for our brain to go into nothing's working and disaster spiral, snowball to God knows where. If we're constantly like, of course, well, that part's working. Now what? We become problem solvers, right? That's very different. It's like, this is working, but not this. I wonder what's happening here.
That's brilliant. We have a daily virtual huddle well, we have an actual virtual huddle, but we also have a thing in Slack that we update every day with 4 or 5 questions.
Hmm.
And I am now going to replace one of those questions with what's working right now because I want everybody to focus on something going well. And that's
Yes.
really, really good. Perfect.
Well,
I'm
and it
going to change
really
that question.
changes everything, right?
Yep. Yep.
Everything
In fact, I
comes,
think we start with
everything.
that question.
Yes.
That is
Every
so
day.
smart because I'm so used to making the list of what's broken right now or what do I need to do better or faster or sooner. But
Mm-hmm.
what's working right now? That is, oh my God, I love talking to you. I
I
shouldn't
love
be.
talking to you.
This
Well,
is a
but when
secret.
you
This was a secret ploy to get a coaching session. This isn't
come,
actually a podcast, but we'll go ahead and air it. But this was,
this is my favorite thing. But it really like, see, here's the other thing. When you start with what's working right now, and you're like, well, these things are working right now. And it's like, well, on my list were to fix two of those three things. Well, actually, they're working right now. So
huh.
now I don't have to touch them, which means your to do list got cut down by 2/3,
And I
right?
bet you
So
it also gives you insight into things you had on your to-do list that shouldn't even be there.
correct. And
Huh.
suddenly our day gets simpler because there's stuff we've been trying to fix that is not broken.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, for me, often when things I'm trying to fix that aren't broken, it's because I'm bored,
Yeah, I love it. Oh my
right?
god,
My
that's so
brain
true.
gets like, okay, we did this before, it worked. Therefore, we shouldn't have to figure out how to do it again. It's like, no, 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 hold on.
Ah,
Like, I'm not going to creatively break it so I can creatively fix it. Like, this is stupid.
we do like to put out fires.
Right? But like, basically, we set the fire and then we put it out.
Mhm.
And then, but if we're always in, okay, what's working? It's like, well, I don't need to set that on fire today. That's already good. Thanks.
Yep. Oh, it's
That's,
funny. The
no, thank
opposite of
you.
that is this is reminding me of a quote I saw, which is if you're an entrepreneur who's great at putting out fires, you're probably an arsonist.
For real, though,
Yep.
you gotta be because there are not that many fires.
I love that. And unless we're creating them.
Right. Like, we are, I can't tell you. I mean, I see one of the things I get to see the gift of coaching is seeing in windows into so many people's worlds, right?
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how many times in a week, every call, where somebody says something and I'll be like, well, but is that? And I want to slap myself every time I say it. I'm sorry. Every time I apologize in advance. And it's like, well, okay, but is that actually a problem or are we just like wanting it to be a problem? because those aren't the same thing.
No, they're not. They're
And
really
it
not.
sucks to say that to somebody because nobody wants to be asked that,
But it's the
and always
job.
be like, "I'm so sorry. I wanna slap me for you." Also, is that actually a
I wanna
problem, or are
slap
we just, like, making up shit to think about?
I wanna slap me for you. "Hey,
But
puppy
it's like
doggy."
oh, yeah. But it's like, no but it's the truth. We do that. We
Yeah, my
generate
god.
just, like, stuff to perseverate over, like, ugh,
Yep.
no.
Oh, that's just brilliant. That is freaky br alright, well, let's flip this on the other end night
Okie
now,
dokie.
and share an example with me of a time you connected with someone who led you to an opportunity that you would never have seen coming. Now, this sort of circles back to your one friend, because that's certainly how you
Yeah.
got in business in the first place, but beyond that, since you've been in business, how has this kind of played out? Like, how have people or a person kind of really made you go, "Oh my god, I didn't know that was there to do." Cleaning garbage
Yeah,
cans.
no, I had a good example in the fall. So,
Oh,
first, one of the things I think people should be reminded is we have fans we don't know about.
ah,
You have whatever you're doing out in the world, you have people rooting for you, you don't know are rooting for you. You have fans that are strangers. You
huh,
just don't even you do. And so what happened is I had a client who reached out to me and she was like, "So I have this friend who follows you. She does this thing, she runs this group. They have a conference they're doing in a week, and her speaker just bailed." She's like, "I don't know if you do this. I'm not really sure, but I feel like they would you would be useful to them." And the lady, like, had followed me a little because she was connected to somebody I was connected to. Was like, "Cool." And she was like, "Well, recently I read one of your posts about this thing. Can you come talk to us about simplifying?" And I was like, "Absolutely." But it was like 3 days later.
oh,
But it's
wow.
like friend, connection to a
Yep,
fan, a secret fan, like, I had no idea,
mhm,
who then knew exactly what she wanted, and I then solved a problem 2 days later.
and you were exactly what she needed, and this is why we call it know your map, right?
Yes.
It's where and I literally have a visual of this for every person that I have a meaningful relationship with, not
Yeah.
just, I've met them in a hall somewhere, but everybody I have a meaningful relationship with is drawn on a map, and I've got it in MindMaster to remind me really, wow, if I didn't know this person or didn't do this thing, I never would have known that. And I love in that you had a surprise fan and you didn't even know it.
Yes.
That is
Well,
just
because,
beautiful.
like, for me, and I don't mean this in like it sounds weird, but I always think of we're all the center of our own dartboard, right?
Mhm.
We are the center. Then there's the layer of people like we know best. And then there's a layer of people those people know and layer out. But every person you're connected to the center of their dartboard, right? And then there are people.
Ah,
And
yep.
then there are people, right? So there's all these series of circles that you
Mhm.
touch in various ways because you touch that person.
Yep.
And so you get all these connections to people that you didn't know anything about that they now know you, and you secretly know them even though they don't know that. Like, it's a whole thing because you know they're
It's a whole
people.
fun thing. Yeah.
But there's some math in there, right? Of like exponential growth.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
some really interesting, like, okay, like 6 degrees of separation of randomness, like
So this
joy,
is the Kevin Bacon story, right?
right? But it's, if you think of it that way, when we map that way,
Mhm.
that's how connection works. That's how networks work. But
Mhm.
it only works if you're a human about it. Like, it doesn't, if you're like
Bingo.
a
We've made such
weirdo,
a bad
then
word of networking. That's why I've kept that word out of this whole conversation and this
yep.
podcast. But it really is an if you go back to the real meaning of
It's like a
network, not
literal
the
math network. Yes.
yeah, it's a literal map network. And the thing you've just highlighted for me that I never thought about is I've mapped my actual set of relationships, but I am not mapped because you can't. But I haven't even imagined that each one of those has a whole circle that could at any point expand or explode.
Yes.
And that's
Well,
why the
and
connection is so freaking important because the more you connect, the more real that's going to happen. And it's not that you connect to help your business, but when you connect, a fantastic outcome is often that it grows or gives you an idea for, or adds revenue to, or adds training to your business, which is a great outcome of the primary goal, which is get to know people, is
Well,
how what I realized. It took me a while to realize that.
and you just never know who those people are
Mhm.
secretly, because, like, I have a sometimes you have a person in mind, right? This is why I hate the, like, "Who's your avatar?" I'm, like, anti-avatar because, like, I don't give a crap what color socks she wears, I just don't. Like, I can't, and the marketing people probably hate me and whatever. But, like, I have a problem with that because, what'll happen is I'll be at a baseball game, and somebody's mom will be like, "Oh my gosh, I loved that post about this thing on Facebook. It made me think about my friend so and so. I connected them to all your stuff." Or, "I saw this thing you did." I have a dad friend that is a baseball dad, and he'll be like, "I saw this thing you did on TikTok the other day. I was looking through and it made me think about this."
I love it.
Is he gonna be a client? No, but is it still helping him? Yes, and at some point, he'll run into somebody to be like, "You know what you need?"
Yep.
And that's the so they don't
That's what
even have to be
happens.
your avatar to be your fan that then creates more and you do good for them and it all comes back, man. Good in the universe is good in the universe. So,
It's the truth, and I think in this world right now, we're all starting to realize that,
God hope.
that these connections, these relationships, these maps, if you will, are what are gonna be the difference and
Yes.
change things. It's not anything else, which I love. All right, so what you probably noticed is I've asked you kind of 3 key questions. I've asked you, what's an important relationship when you started? What's an important relationship when you were in a tight spot? And then I asked you, what's an important relationship when something, that opened up your eyes to something you didn't see before? And I've always had 4 questions in these, but since this is actually not a podcast, but a coaching call that we're going to podcast, I'm going to tell you that I hate my 4th question. And
Hmm.
I'm curious if you have any ideas about what I should change it to. So right now it basically says, let's look to the horizon. We've looked at the beginning. We looked at where you are now. Let's look to the horizon. How has your relationship map enabled you to think bigger or aim higher as you think about your future endeavors? Like anybody who's put a moonshot in your head that you didn't think about because of somebody in your circle. So, first of all, you're welcome to answer that question.
Mm.
Second of all, I hate it.
Well, but I think the question is more because it's really, how has connection helped you get started? How has connection helped you currently? How has connection opened doors? It's really like, what's next for you in connection,
There you
right?
go.
Like, what would you love? What's connection you're looking forward to, right? Like, what's the future for connection in your
Ooh,
business,
I love that.
right? It's
So,
much more.
Sarah, what's next for you in connection? What is it about relationships, et cetera, that's going to lead you forward into the next stage of your business? I love that. And life. Uh,
It's so
what's
messed
next
up.
for you in
Somehow that's so
connection?
messed up that I just, like, tortured myself. I'm not sure how this worked, but that was fantastic. Well played. Um, I think for me, my job as a business owner is to not, and a human, honestly, is to not this is really hard for me because my teacher brain is a planner. I wanna know what I'm doing on April 15th at noon. Like, I
Got it.
really do. So what I really work on is not getting out over my skis too far and really being open to more connection and making sure that I am always creating space for new connection, even if it's uncomfortable for me. So, like, it's joining, like, I am in a newer group that I'm trying to spend some time in because it's a networking community. The people I love the people running it, and that's great for me. I'm
Perfect.
trying to, like, I always set a goal for new connections in a year. Like, I
Ooh, I
count
like
people
that.
instead of money because I think money comes from people, right? Like, I count people.
I love that. I'm
Oh,
going to
I
highlight
love
that, folks. Set a goal for new connections as opposed to revenue. Revenue will
Yes.
fall, well, not opposed to. I'm a finance
No,
person,
not opposed to.
but set a goal for new connections. I really like that.
And make it a number that is uncomfortable. Like, my number is 125.
I like that.
And
That
so
is
I
big.
track that. But will it happen? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But is it something I get to always reach towards and be open to? So when somebody's like, hey, do you want to connect and have a conversation? I'm always like, of course,
There
because
you
we're going to be
go.
human about it. And it spurs me to move towards that. So I think for connection for me, it's really about being open to whoever it is that walks through the door and also to whoever. I always say to people, they'll say, you get into the networking calls and it'll be like, what can I do for you? It's very odd. And in those odd conversations, I always say to people, and they don't know what to do with me, they're always completely befuddled.
Oh,
I
cool. A
always say,
networking
like,
hack.
the next time you come across somebody that you think, like, oh my gosh, they'd go to jail together, like they would be so funny in a room, that's the person I want you to connect me with.
I love it.
Because, like, maybe it'll be a business connection, maybe we'll just laugh our faces off, like, cool,
Yep.
let's do that, but you never know, and I don't need that person to judge that for me, I need them to go like, "Oh, that would be fun," and trust their knowing, right? Let's come all the way back around
Yep.
to it.
Yep. Yep.
But,
Yep.
like, these people should be together, I do that to you sometimes, I'll be like, "Oh,
Yep.
that lady should know Pam," and I'll be like, "Pam, I have somebody you're gonna get
You should know
introduced
this
to."
person. Yep.
Yeah, and off we go because I just trust that, so
Yep.
I ask that of other people, right? Like when you're like, "Oh gosh, they would be hysterical sitting in a corner together, they'd cause trouble." That's great. Let's
Yep.
do that.
That's the
Those are my
person. Yeah,
favorite
that's the
people
person I introduce you to. Who are the
every
people in
time.
church laughing at the funeral?
Well, and my dad ran a cemetery, so like that's definitely me.
Even better.
Like
Even better.
that
Getting
was
the giggles
definitely
at a funeral, I should say, not laughing at a funeral, but getting the giggles at one. Yeah,
yeah, no,
I'm
that's
with you.
I'm that guy's kid. So like I'm picking
I
flowers at the
love
crematory
that.
growing up. So weird in every way. Weird in
Well,
all
I
the ways.
know for sure after this conversation, people are going to want to know where to find you. So, where can they find you, connect with you? We'll drop all that in the show notes, both the
Yep.
podcast and YouTube.
They can, well, first, like I like human conversations, so don't be like, "Oh my God, I'm bothering her." Stop it. That's not for
Oh,
you to decide. That's
cool.
for me to decide. That's just how about you reach out. Don't be weird. The second is Facebook, obviously. I have a group. It's called Uncomplicating Business for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers. Truly, if you are looking around and you're like, but I'm not a teacher, don't be weird about it. If you feel like
Mhm.
you want to come be in the community, come be in the community. That's it, period.
I love it.
LinkedIn, TikTok. I don't Instagram. I have an account, but I can't bear it over there. It feels like overwhelming. So, do I
Hey,
post every now and then because I feel like I should? Yes, but if you send me a message there, will I ever see it? No.
no, cool. I love that. So just
Um,
reach out on Facebook, on
yeah,
LinkedIn. Yeah, let
whatever.
Sarah know you heard about her on the podcast and she'll definitely connect. And I can vouch for this, guys. I am in her group. I get so much out of that group every day. Sarah posts every day faithfully. In fact, before we started, I was asking her, how do you have the energy to do that? And she was explaining it's just part of her. She uses what she calls time pockets. So we're not going
Mhm.
to share that secret here. You want to know more about that? Reach out to Sarah and ask her about time pockets. I know I'm going to be using them now that we've talked about them. But the big deal here is reach out. It's about relationships. And I only bring people on this podcast who I know personally feel the same way about that. So, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this with us. And I'm just grateful you're in my circle, right by the target, and hope that everybody has a great day. We're going to see you next week again with another cash flow podcast. But listen to this one a couple of times because there are some nuggets buried in here. Right now, they're also on my notebook. So we'll put them in the show notes too. Sarah, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. The world needs it.
Oh, right back at you. You're one of my very
Awesome.
favorites. You build a world that I am happy to be a part of, and this is a treat. Maybe a bigger treat for me, but we don't have to compare the size
You,
of a treat. Um,
we don't have to compete. I love it.
thank you so much, and I can't wait to connect with y'all. That's what we're gonna
All
do.
right, you guys, we'll see you next week. I hope that video was helpful, and I hope you subscribe to my channel for more information on finances in your business.